Welcome back, Turholics. Have you seen a couple of my videos? You know that I love red-eared sliders. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about how to care for one by yourself. Let's get into it. So this is the red-eared slider, easily identifiable by the red stripes on its ears. They usually live to around 30 years in captivity, and they can grow to up to 10 to 12 inches. Now, when it comes to red-eared slider care, one of your most important jobs is going to be making sure that your red-eared slider has a healthy diet. Now, luckily, there are a ton of commercial turtle food pellets that work for red-eared sliders, so you can try a bunch of different ones to see what your turtle likes best. Maybe it's the taste or the texture or the size, but I would recommend that you find 2 to 3 types of pellets that your turtle likes and then feed them a variety of those, just because that will help ensure that they're getting all the proper nutrients that they need to be healthy. And it is important to remind you that turtles should be fed while in the water, so you should drop the pellets directly into the water. That will help them digest the food. And what I usually do is I just drop the food directly into their tank. It's just a little bit easier, and I don't really worry about the mess because she usually eats it all. But there are some people that like to actually put the food in a separate bucket and then put your turtle inside there. So that's also another option that you can do. Another option is to use an automatic feeder like the one you see here. I use mine whenever I go on vacation, so it's very convenient. And then in terms of how often you should feed your red-eared slider, it's going to depend a lot on their age. So red-eared sliders, from 0 to 4 years old, you can feed just about every day. Once they're 4 to 7 or 8, you want to switch it to every other day. And then once your turtle's above 7 or 8 years old, you really only want to feed them every 2 to 3 days. And red-eared sliders love to beg. Even if you feed them, they'll still beg for more, so just make sure that you don't overfeed them. And whenever you feed something to your turtle, make sure that it's small enough to easily fit in their mouth. You don't want to give your turtle pellets that are too big that they can't swallow, because obviously that can lead to digestion issues. And once your turtle becomes around 4 or 5 years old, you are going to want to start integrating vegetables into their diet. And red-eared sliders can be picky eaters, and if they've eaten pellets their whole life, it might be hard at first to get them to start eating their veggies. But it is important because the older they get, the more you're actually going to shift their diet to more veggies and less pellets. There is the option to feed your turtle fruit. So my turtle loves mango and it's a great source of vitamin A. However, since fruit usually does have a lot of sugar, you don't want to do this every day. So if you want to feed fruit to your turtle, just make sure that's only like once or twice a week at the most. And there are a couple other options when it comes to treats. So for example, freeze-dried shrimp is an excellent source of protein and your turtle will absolutely love the taste. So that's a good thing to feed your turtle maybe once a week. And you can also feed your red-eared slider live food, because in the wild, red-eared sliders do hunt. They get crickets, they get worms, they get small insects. So it's really cool to feed them this because it helps them tap into like their natural hunting instincts. Worms are a great option. And if you want to give your turtle a challenge, you can try feeding them crickets. Just make sure that they don't jump out of the tank and get inside your house. And if you want to give your turtle a real workout, you can give them feeder fish, but this can be expensive and fish do have a lot of protein in them, so you don't want to do it more than once a week. And now is actually a good time to mention the size of your red-eared slider tank. So you're going to need at least a 75-gallon for your red-eared slider so that they have more than enough room to swim around. And if you're not able to provide them enough space, you should get a different species because it can lead to a lot of health issues if they don't have enough room to swim around. Now, if you've already had a turtle or maybe you've already done a little bit of research, you probably know that turtles need a basking area. And basically that's something that they can climb onto to get completely out of the water and dry. And there's also a ton of different types of basking platforms you can have. The most important thing is that you choose one that's easy for your turtle to climb onto and stay out of the water. You also want to make sure that it's stable. And since red-eared sliders can grow so quickly, I recommend getting as big of a basking platform as you can, just because what happened to me is I got a cheap, smaller one when I first got my turtle, but then as you can see here, after like a year, she could barely fit on it, and she actually stopped basking as much just because she wasn't able to really balance herself, so I ended up having to create this one here. So when it really comes down to it, you might as well get that big basking area now, so you don't have to pay for a whole brand new one once your turtle gets a little bit bigger. Now, one of the main reasons why your turtle needs to bask is in order to get UVA and UVB light, and you provide that with a basking lamp. And here's a screenshot why turtles need UVA and UVB light. But in terms of the types of lights that you can have, there's really 2 options. So you can get one that has 2 different sockets. So you basically have a UVA bulb in one, a UVB bulb in the other. So that's what this one is. And the other option is to basically just get a combination bulb, which emits both UVA and UVB light, both in one. So those are the 2 ways you can help provide basking light for your turtle. Now, your red-eared slider tank is going to need some form of a filter, and it's important when looking for filters that you choose one that is rated to at least 2 to 3 times the size of your tank. So for example, if your tank is 75 gallons, you're going to want a filter that is able to filter at least 150 gallons per hour. And here's the one that I have. I'll put a description in the link below. I think it has around 200 gallons per hour. And what I do like it is it also kind of acts as like an air pump, so it shoots out bubbles. And as you can see here, Penny definitely enjoys that. I'm not sure if she treats it kind of as like a massage or maybe she has like an itch on her shell, but I do frequently see her like kind of crouched underneath there. So I enjoy watching her do that, and I think she enjoys it as well. And one more thing when it comes to filters, when you position it in your tank, make sure you put it in a non-hazardous area. So basically that just means like you don't want to put it like right near the bottom of the tank where your turtle is going to be able to slide underneath it and potentially get stuck, because that is a drowning hazard. So you just want to make sure you put it in an area where it's not going to trap your turtle at all. Also, depending on the type of filter you have, you will have to clean your filter it can range from every month or so, maybe some more higher quality ones, maybe only every 3 to 4 months. It's pretty easy. You usually just have to like clean out the sponges or whatever media you have in there, but that's also something that you don't want to forget about. Now, another important decision that you'll need to make when it comes to red-eared slider care is determining what they're going to have as their substrate. And basically substrate just means whatever is on the bottom of their tank. And you could just go with a bare bottom, which basically just means you have nothing on the bottom. However, I'm not a huge fan. One, it just looks a little messy because all of the uneaten food and waste just kind of sits at the bottom there. And two, it just is not very natural for your turtle, so I do not recommend that. You can go with larger kind of river rocks, which some people do. However, it's important to make sure that none of those rocks are small enough to fit in your turtle's mouth, as you can see here, because that's definitely a choking hazard. I actually started with crushed coral with my red-eared slider, which I do not recommend because your turtle will also eat that. Personally, I feel like I've had the best luck with just sand. One, it's pretty cheap, so you're not going to burn a hole in your pocket. And two, it's pretty easy. You just, cut it open, put it inside your tank, and then level it out. And I think it has a really cool aesthetic look. And on top of that, red-eared sliders are very curious, and so they like to dig, and so sand is a great substrate to have your turtle dig through whenever they get curious. Now let's talk turtle mates. So if you've seen a couple of my early videos, you probably noticed that I used to have fish in my tank. I think at the peak I had around 7 or 8 fish with Penny, and they coexisted peacefully for a couple of months. Like, they would eat close to each other. Penny did not seem interested in eating them at all. Eventually, one by one, she started hunting out every single one of them, ate them all. And that's not to say you can't have fish with your turtle. There's just a couple things to keep in mind. One, choose a species that has similar requirements in terms of like water temperature and pH level as your turtle. And you also want to make sure that if your turtle does eat that fish, that it's not unhealthy for your turtle, so it's not bony and might cause any digestion issues. And lastly, just don't get too attached to a fish. If you put it inside a turtle tank, there's always a chance that your turtle can eat it. So just be aware that that could happen. Now, in terms of decorations, obviously you have a lot of options, and I've tried a boatload of things. But at the end of the day, like for me, I realized that like just having a free tank, like with not a whole lot in it, it just gives Penny a lot of space to swim around, which is important. And like I said, I've just been unlucky with things that I've put into my tank. I've tried a couple different types of plants. As you can see here, like Penny first started biting them all the time, and then eventually she was able to just kind of dig them out of the ground, push them all the way around the tank, so that didn't work. Then I also tried to make a bonsai tree, and at first it was staying pretty steady, but then eventually she just started climbing all around it. Her feet were getting caught in the grass that I had on top of the trees, and then this is the end result. So it just didn't really work out. And also driftwood is definitely an option. I had driftwood in my tank for a couple of months. Just be aware that it can cause your tank to get a little yellowish in terms of the water because of the tannins that are in the wood. And secondly, like I said, my turtle, maybe she's just more destructive than other red-eared sliders, but I also found her eating the driftwood, so I got rid of that, and it was just kind of like a big centerpiece that kind of blocked a lot of her swimming patterns. So that's another reason why I decided to just keep the tank pretty much free. But another option is to have a piece of floating driftwood, and as you can see here, sometimes Penny would just kind of like climb on top of it and kind of rest a little bit. So that's another option to just kind of have something in the tank if you want it. And if you're looking for additional ways to provide enrichment for your red-eared slider, you can take them outside, and the natural sunlight is a great source of UVA and UVB light, so it's great for their shell. And secondly, like I mentioned, red-eared sliders are a very curious species, so they probably will like to explore and walk around. Just make sure that there's no dogs or any other animals in the vicinity. Now, even though red-eared sliders do spend a good amount of time out of the water on their basking platform, it is still very important that the water in their tank is clean, or it can lead to a lot of different illnesses and diseases. So every 1 to 2 weeks, you are going to want to do at least a partial water change, which I just take a bucket, remove around 15 to 20 gallons from the tank, then replace it with new water. And then every now and then something will go wrong. Sometimes like my filter will just kind of get clogged, or maybe there's just like bacterial bloom inside of my tank where it will look something like this. But when that happens, I'll just do a full water change. So I'll basically take out all the water in the tank, as you can see here, and then I'll fill it back up with new fresh water. And if you're like me and use tap water, it is just important to keep in mind that you need to put water conditioner inside of that water to help remove some of like the chloramines and other chemicals that are found in tap water. And every week or every 2 weeks, you are going to want to scrub down the inside surface of your tank, and that's to help prevent the spread of algae. And this is easy, usually just comes right off with a sponge. Another thing that you're going to want to do every couple of weeks is to test the temperature of your basking platform. So for red-eared sliders, you want it to be around 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and you want the light around 6 to 10 inches away from the basking platform. And if the temperature can't reach 95, it probably means you need a new bulb. And then you're also going to want to test the temperature of the water, and you should have a heater inside your tank, and you want the water to be around 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Another thing to be aware of is that red-eared sliders do shed. It's totally natural, it's healthy, so there's no reason to freak out if you see your turtles starting to shed some of their scutes, which are the top layer of their shell. And the reason red-eared sliders need to shed their scutes is because they need to make room for the new scutes that are underneath the old ones, so it helps expand their shell. And here's a look after my turtle stopped shedding. You can see it's whole brand new scutes. It looks great, and I don't recommend taking the scutes off by hand. Just let them fall off naturally, and then you can just pick them up from the bottom of the tank. So whether you already have a red-eared slider or maybe you're thinking about getting one, I really hope that you found this video helpful. If you have any more questions about red-eared slider care, let me know down in the comments and I will respond to you. And lastly, if you made it this far in the video and you're not already subscribed, please hit that button below. It really helps with the traction on my channel and I really appreciate it. And with that, me and Penny, we'll see you on the next one.